What's up, everybody? Wes Hockwitz here, joined alongside my partner in crime, Mike Spofford, Packers.com. Packers Preview presented by Microsoft Surface, our weekly Q&A, taking in all of the ambiance of the NFL and Green Bay Packers football and putting it into one tight, nicely contested 15 to 20-minute Q&A where Mike and I will take all of your questions on X, Facebook, and YouTube. And as those questions begin to populate in those respective social media channels, I can let you know that the Green Bay Packers did issue their injury report shortly before we stepped in for this latest edition of Packers Preview. We know two questionable players for the Packers in this one in Sunday's matchup against the Chicago Bears. Jaire Alexander still with the knee injury. Evan Williams with the hamstring. Both of those guys are questionable. Out. We know Jordan Morgan, unfortunately, had an aggravation there with the shoulder injury that he's been battling through. He has been deemed out already. And Marshawn Lloyd, unfortunately, was already dealing with the ankle and the hamstring. And as we learned after practice today, one that he did not take part in, Matt LaFleur confirmed, unfortunately, he has an appendicitis. So he left the team this morning, I believe was getting that taken care of. Thinking hopefully everything's chill there with Marshawn. You hate to see it, as Matt even said, you can't make this stuff up, unfortunately, for this young man and everything he's been through this season. And then lastly, just mentioned Colby Wooden, also doubtful for this one. The biggest thing I took away, in addition to the questionables, was Josh Myers, good to go. Not among those players dealing with the wrist injury, but presumably will be starting, and at least you hope for his sake, as close to 100% as he can be. Yeah,
maybe the one guy who you'd put at the top of the list in terms of how much good the bye week did for Josh Myers, having to miss that game in against Detroit because of the wrist injury. He gets an entire week off, and now he's completely off the injury report and ready to go. That's really good to see.
Green Bay Packers, Chicago Bears, Soldier Field this Sunday, a noon Central start time, a game that can be viewed on Fox. And we've already got questions coming in on YouTube. So rather than going over everything with the Chicago Bears, why don't we discuss these quickly as these start to come in? Starting with Doug here on YouTube. Will we see, Michael, more blitzing this week? You got to pressure the rookie quarterback. It was funny. I had to kind of walk back my own words in inbox this week because I said, well, he's been hit a lot this year, that being Caleb Williams. Maybe you just try your four-man rush, see what happens, and try to generate pressure that way and cover all these abundance of weapons that the Bears have. But then I saw the NFL Next Gen stats coming out of that game between Chicago and the New England Patriots, and Jared Mayo and the Patriots threw as much pressure and as many blitz packages as Caleb Williams saw all season, and obviously it worked out, and I believe it was a 19-3 win.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the Packers go about this because while everybody's been talking about the 9 sacks that the Patriots racked up, when you look at the highlights there, I mean, yes, there were some times where those blitzes got home and Williams got buried in the pocket. Other times, he actually had a lot of time and was running around and trying to find somebody to throw to and trying to make a play. And then he's getting sacked, 7 or 8 seconds after the snap. So there was a real mix of things there. The other thing is that the Bears did not have either of their starting offensive tackles for that game last week against the Patriots. Getting their starting tackles back, those guys are supposed to be back this week.
They both are off the injury report.
They're off the injury report now. So that's going to change things in terms of Chicago's protection. I mean, yes, Caleb Williams had also been sacked plenty prior to last week, but I think he's going to feel a little bit more of a jolt of confidence and a jolt of comfort knowing that he's got his regular bookends there. And, really, not just with the pass rush, but this whole game in general. The Packers cannot take anything for granted here.
Matteo Rubinato. What's up, Matteo? This is on YouTube. Will we see JL10 under center more now that he looks healthy? Still on the injury report, was a full participant, though, this week, and hoping that that groin injury is now behind him.
Yeah, you hope so. And the healthier Jordan Love is, the more options the Packers have in terms of how they want to line them up. Do you want to go shotgun? Do you want to go pistol? Do you want to go under center? How do you want to marry up your run concepts with your play action? All of that. There's more available to Matt LaFleur and to Jordan Love when he's fully healthy. So hopefully we'll see that on Sunday.
Jacob Miller on YouTube. How important is this game to our playoff chances, being a divisional game? Well, before I turn this over to you, Mr. Malone, I will act as your John Stockton. The Green Bay Packers, this matchup, as we've talked about numerous times, the NFC in these division games, they are so critical, not only for seeding, not only for trying to win a division, not only trying to make a run at a bye, But I also feel like just the momentum side of things. It's good when you take care of business outside the conference, but at the end of the day, it is about the NFC until you get to a Super Bowl. So from Green Bay's standpoint, I think that's the starting point. The stat that I thought was really interesting that you and I talked about it on Scripted this week, and it was credit to you. I did not realize that the NFC North now will have wrapped up its play against the AFC South. The NFC North going 14-2 in those games. The Packers,
if the Lions and the Vikings
Correct.
both win this week, it will be 14-2.
Correct.
Yeah.
And if it works out that way, then the Bears are the only ones that took a loss in that group. So for the Packers, you can't do anything about the loss at home to Minnesota. You can't do anything about the loss at home to Detroit. The only thing you can worry about right now is the Chicago Bears, and I think in that regard, it makes this thing one of the bigger games of the season.
It does. I mean, you just look at the numbers on the surface. 6-3. The Packers have had their bye week. You're looking to start a strong second half push to the season right here. How much better does 7-3 look versus 6-4, right? I mean, it's like a world of difference when you look at those numbers versus everything else that's going on in the NFC. And to get an example of how quickly things can change, the Commanders just lost 2 games in a span of 5 days and went from 7-2 to 7-4.
Right.
I mean, things can happen in a hurry here. All you can do is play the game in front of you, try to chalk up a victory, and then you look around the scoreboard and the standings and you see where things fall. There's so much football left to be played, but man, 7 wins would sure look a lot nicer than the alternative right now.
100%, and it obviously goes back to last year when they're sitting at 3-6, and you have to turn your season around at this point. Now the Packers are actually playing from the lead again in that regard and trying to be able to keep up, being in the lead position here for playoff positioning, whether it be for wild card or still trying to stay within arm's reach of the Lions.
Sure.
But the other aspect of this is an opportunity to really knock down the Chicago Bears. The Bears, much like, unfortunately, what Washington's experiencing right now, they got off to a fast start and now have dropped 3 straight since the bye. We obviously have talked ad nauseum about what happened in that game against the Commanders at the very end of it. They are the team now that is starting to question things. So one of the points I'm raising in Insider Inbox for tomorrow that I've been working on is 2 things. One, you can't take the Bears for granted. Defensively, they've only allowed more than 20 points twice this season in 9 games. They've kept them. Their defense has kept them in every game so far this season, outside of really the Commanders. I mean, what would it be like? I'm trying to think, the Commanders won. I mean, there was
the Cardinals game. Cardinals game was 29-9. That's really the only game where the Bears defense kind of let the game get away from them. The other games this year, the Bears defense has given them a chance to win pretty much every contest.
Yeah, so I mean, from that regard, I think you got to really take this threat seriously and everything that's going to happen with it. Okay, with Jordan Morgan out, and unfortunately, again, seeing exactly what will happen with the shoulder, Matt LaFleur said they got to figure out what the next step is going to be there. Certainly with numerous setbacks or whatever you want to call them now, as far as re-aggravations, you have to do what's in the best interest of him long term. But how do the Packers feel about Sean Rhyan getting all the snaps? I mean, Sean Rhyan, when you talk about going from a rotation with John Runyon to then being in a rotation with Jordan Morgan, to suddenly over the last month or so, he's become an every down player for them. From day one, we talked about his strength, his size, everything you really look for and what made him a 3rd-round pick, 2.5 years ago. I think there's confidence there that he can handle this thing. Where it gets more precarious here, depending on what the long-term forecast is for Jordan, is, okay, well then who now is the next man up? Because it's not Jordan in this case anymore. Now you got Jacob Monk available. Obviously, Andre Dillard has played a lot of football. And then we saw the one equipment issue, I think, that Zach Tom had a few weeks ago. Kadeem Telford came in for that snap at right tackle. So they have depth at offensive line, but Morgan was the next guy up. So I think that's where I kind of look at this thing. Fortunately, you have Myers back, but the dominoes still can be there if something else happens. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see. I have to think in a way that probably the 6th man now, if Jordan Morgan is out, the 6th man is probably Andre Dillard just because of his veteran status, the experience, and how much he's played. But getting back to the original question with regard to Sean Rhyan, I was asked this either over the bye week or recently in Insider Inbox in terms of naming some of the Packers' most improved players on either side of the ball from last year. And when you look at the offense, the 2 guys that I would say are probably the most improved Green Bay Packers on offense from 2023 to 2024 are Tucker Kraft and Sean Rhyan.
Correct.
Those are the 2 guys. I mean, Sean Rhyan has made significant strides instead of being just a guy who rotates in with John Runyon at right guard. He's solidified himself as the starter there. And yes, they were working on a rotation and getting Jordan Morgan some experience as a rookie 1st-round pick. But the coaches have no problem with Sean Ryan playing all the snaps. He did so against the Lions because Morgan was playing left guard because of the shuffle with Myers at center and Elton Jenkins and all that. But Sean Ryan has come a long way in like I'd say the last year and a half.
Absolutely. Oh, hello there. Wes Hodkiewicz, Mike Spofford. If you just happen to scroll into this feed right now, we are doing our weekly Packers preview Q&A presented by Microsoft Surface. A couple more minutes. Again, if you want to get your questions in, that's on YouTube, Facebook, and X. This is from Bryce Bernard on YouTube. Which players need to step up with the departure of Preston Smith? And before I turn that over to you, I just want to mention another one of the things I'm tackling in Insider Inbox. It's funny how all these questions kind of permeate and sort of revolve around the same things. Listen, Lucas Van Ness is going to get an opportunity. He's the now listed starter. You know, Kingsley Enagbare is going to get plenty of snaps as well. I'm really excited to see what potentially this could mean for Aaron Mosby and also Brenton Cox Jr.
Yeah.
Mosby had 5 snaps before the bye. Made, on his third one, he was able to get a third down sack in concert with Rashawn Gary. But Brenton Cox Jr. is the one that has been patiently waiting his turn. And the tough thing for Brenton, because people are like, well, he hasn't played yet this season. Well, there's a couple things that go into that. Unfortunately, he's playing one of the deepest and most healthy positions on the roster. No one's really had any real huge setbacks in terms of not being able to play in a game. And 2, a lot of the guys that he's behind the depth chart on defense, he's also behind on special teams.
Yeah.
Enagbare, Van Ness, and obviously Aaron Mosby all play on special teams as well. That's where he hasn't really had that opportunity to be up on the 50 or the 48 here during the regular season.
Right.
But this is a former 5-star recruit. It's a guy that I think has done everything right since he's been in Green Bay. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know how many snaps either him or Mosby are going to play.
Right.
But no corresponding move was made. The Packers traded Preston Smith and did not fill that with another veteran pass rusher or anyone else. You would think at some point, whether it's this Sunday or sometime in the near future, Mosby and Brenton Cox are both going to be counted on.
Absolutely. I mean, opportunity is knocking for those 2 young players, and now we're going to see what they do with it. I will add to everything that you said. We heard from Jeff Hafley, the defensive coordinator, on Thursday when he spoke with the media, talking specifically about Brenton Cox Jr., and he said, when Jeff Hafley's number 1 defense is out there in practice going against the offensive scout team, they're working on the game planning and whatnot, then things will switch and it goes back to the number 1 offense against the scout team defense. Well, that's where Brenton Cox Jr. has been getting a lot of his snaps in practice, is on the scout team defense. And Hafley made a point of saying he has really made an impression. He has made things difficult at times for the Packers' number 1 offense as a scout team player. That is how you get noticed by the coaches. That is how you work your way up the depth chart. That is how you get opportunities. Now that opportunity is going to come for him. I don't know if it's going to be 2 snaps or 12 snaps or what it might be on Sunday at Soldier Field, but whatever opportunity he gets, he is fired up for it.
MM1012 on YouTube. Team went on a run around this time last year. Do you think 10's ability to clean up the turnovers? Do you think 10's able to clean up the turnovers? And will the offense in general be able to start taking advantage of their red zone opportunities and improve their efficiency? My answer to that would be yes, yes, and yes.
I agree. It was interesting hearing from Matt LaFleur on Friday. He specifically mentioned with regard to the red zone that the Packers have had 18 offensive penalties in the red zone this year.
I didn't realize that.
In 9 games, that's an alarming number. And it's one of the biggest reasons, if maybe not the biggest reason, the Packers are 29th in red zone offense this year, despite the fact that they're still 9th overall in points per game in overall scoring. So I do think the Packers are going to be able to make some strides there. Now, this will be a tough one because the Bears have the number 1 red zone defense in the league. So that's a tough task right away here as you're trying to get that kind of stuff straightened out. But to the other point with regard to Jordan Love and the interceptions, I think the healthier Jordan Love gets and the more that he is able to focus on his game and practice and get all the reps and everything like that, put that focus into his play, and maybe not have to put as much focus on his body to just get ready to play, I think that's going to help him, and I think we're going to start to see a little bit more of the Jordan Love that we saw late last season and that everybody's been expecting to see and hoping to see from him.
Absolutely. Mike Spofford, Wes Hodkiewicz, do you have a couple more minutes? I know you have places to be.
I'm good.
Okay, cool. I'm going to ask you 3 more questions then. This one is from, you know what? I'm going to do this just to make your hair raise up a little bit.
Oh.
That's some foreshadowing, too, to a future question here. YouTube, Dawick, or Dawick. Do you think Jayden Reed, are you ready for this? Where do you think this is going?
I'm not sure.
Do you think Jayden Reed is the future wide receiver 1 superstar? See, people think we plant these questions. We don't plant nothing. You ask a question on YouTube, I'm going to ask it. Do you think, I'll repeat it, for the record here. Do you think Jayden Reed is the future wide receiver 1 superstar? Or WR1 superstar?
WR1.
Jayden Reed superstar.
I'm gonna answer that question this way. Jayden Reed has all the talent in the world to be a wide receiver 1. He does not have to be a wide receiver 1 in this offense because of the other guys who are available to this team. So when we talk about the Packers don't really have a wide receiver 1, it's not because of any lack of ability in those players. It's that the Packers have several guys who are very much on the same level and in whom Jordan Love has just as much confidence in this guy as that guy. That's how this offense works. That's when it's at its best. So I don't worry about it. And I also don't play fantasy football, as
Absolutely.
you know.
I always love that. I feel like truly that started because of fantasy football. Because if you look at the bios, I still play it. If you look at the bios, like when you have like Roto World or whoever like bring up their stuff, they always say, "Hey, so and so is a fringe RB2, RB3 flex," and it's like, "Oh, okay, well that's where all this terminology came from."
Yeah.
I just want to mention this too. I think Jayden Reed would be the first one to tell you his opportunities and the success he's had this year has also been built off of what a lot of the other guys around him present. And I don't know how many times I can say this, but everybody that can catch a football in this offense brings something different to the table. Inbox for tomorrow, I'm talking about potentially down the road, not imminently, but Packers being open to thinking they might get back Luke Musgrave this year.
Sure.
Luke Musgrave, should he get back on the field this year, offers the Packers a pass catcher, a tight end that nobody else in this offense can replicate with his size and how he can branch out and be more of a flex type tight end and slot receiver type.
Yeah.
There's so many of these guys in this offense, and Jayden Reed I think is just another guy in that. I will say this. Jayden Reed had 620 receiving yards in the first half of the season. You spread that out, you do the math. I mean, this guy is on pace if he can stay on the field for a pretty special year.
Yeah, no question about it.
All right. I want to ask this one really fast because I think this is a salient point that Doug on YouTube again, Matt again raises. How do we get Christian Watson more involved in the offense? He showed great hands and has stayed healthy, yet the production hasn't quite been there. Well, I think one, that is a product of having multiple different players and personnel that the Packers can go to. And I think the other thing is, too, when the plays are there, just trying to find ways to make them. I mean, there's been times where him and Jordan Love, it looks like they're close, and just haven't quite been able to get on that final same page. But there's probably, I don't know if there's a bigger champion of Christian Watson in this building than I am. I love everything about him. I love his selflessness. I love the way he plays and the fact that he is as tall as he is and as big as he is and he's as fast as he is. This guy is a difference maker. You cannot find these guys just anywhere in the National Football League or in the United States. It's a talented guy. Certainly, though, the Packers want to get him the ball. I mean, it's another playmaker in this offense that you really are going to run this thing through.
Yeah, it's about offensive rhythm, and it's about getting Josh Jacobs going, and it's about building the play action off of that, and getting those safeties to have to commit to the running game. And then you get those one-on-one matchups with Christian Watson. But overall, it's about the rhythm of the offense creating the opportunities for different guys. And with Jordan Love being hurt, with all the different things that have been going on, you had the shuffling on the offensive line last game, all that. We haven't really seen this Green Bay Packers offense in a rhythm for any extended period of time. That's what they have to get to, and when they get to that, we're going to start seeing box scores on a weekly basis where Jayden Reed has 80 yards, and then Christian Watson has 85, and then Romeo Doubs has 92. I mean, that's what we're going to start to see. It just, for a lot of reasons, they haven't gotten there yet.
And that was last year in against Kansas City. That's where I felt like, I don't know if you remember that game, but Christian had, I think, 6 or 7 receptions that night, and then unfortunately ended up tweaking the hamstring again. But I loved everything I saw because it was just a possession-based game. He was making the plays and catching the passes he needed to catch. And it wasn't just one big over-the-top play or something, No, it was him playing the receiver position, and everything just looked in sync.
Yeah.
And obviously that's where the Packers are trying to get back to.
Exactly.
Last 2 questions. This one is from Tom Grassi on YouTube. First, long-time listener, first-time caller. That could not be more false, Tom. But thank you. Spoff, can you please give us your hair routine? It is truly phenomenal. while you think of that response, here's other things that were tweeted not tweeted, but in the other comment section of YouTube with this. Jacob Miller, peak journalism right there, at Tom Grassi, keep it up, pal. Tom responded to that. The people need to know. Doug Madigan then responded to that saying, he does have great hair. Love how Wes keeps a straight face. Yeah. I'm on a Twitter account or an X account with, what do we have, like 2 million people like that this goes out to? And I got to try not to laugh through all that as I'm trying to moderate this whole thing. So anyway, would you like to offer your hair care routine to a guy like Tom Grassi? Has darn good hair.
He does have good hair.
Tom, I wish I could. I can't style it like Tom does it. I just kind of go with what I have.
Yeah, I mean, you know me. Like I let my hair grow for several months, and then I cut it real short, and then I let it all grow back again. And
yeah, Tom didn't.
You know,
he didn't say what his favorite version is.
No, I do have different versions of my hair though.
Tom, please be professional. Okay, thanks, Tom. Last two things. Jeremy Hadler on YouTube. Hey guys, hoping you're doing well. Meh. What is your guys' favorite Packers-Bears rivalry moment? 4th and 8, NFC Championship, etc., etc., etc. Michael, I have a thought, but
No, you go.
You want me to go first?
Yeah,
okay.
you go ahead.
I wasn't there for the NFC Championship game, so I can't. I watched it, but I wasn't at Soldier Field like you were back in January, I believe, of 2011. My favorite moment will forever be, as cool as 2018 was with the Rodgers comeback and how dramatic that was, it's the 2013 finale for me.
4th and 8 from the
4th
48.
and 8 from the 48.
Yeah.
Everything that went into that game, guys. I will tell you, the build-up to that game, I was a young sports writer at that time. It was only my second full year on the beat. But the way that season went, in all the questions, weekly, for 2 months, about if Aaron Rodgers was going to come back, I can tell you, man, what it was like when the Packers finally activated him, the excitement level of the fans, to have the drama that was in that game, the questions about, hey, is the collarbone going to hold up? And the way the press box is orientated at Soldier Field, we're kind of in one of the corners of the end zone, and seeing that play develop, I saw, and I wasn't traveling much at this time. I was, at that point, I was only, 2013 I was traveling. My first year, I only went to the NFC North games. So I still was pretty new to road games. But I remember seeing Randall Cobb leak out.
Yep.
And it was like one of those plays. It was like I was watching Bayport High School football again, where it's like, he's open. And Rodgers puts it on him, which, by the way, sometimes those can be the hardest ones to throw and catch. And Cobb did it. The Packers made the playoffs.
And another thing I remember from that, because I was probably sitting in the row right behind you or very near you in the press box at that time. You were working for the paper. I was working here. But there was somebody who kind of hollered out in the press box, "Oh my God, he's wide open." And I think it was Jason Wilde.
Oh, was it really?
Yes, I believe it was Jason Wilde.
We'll have to have Jason confirm that.
Before the ball was thrown. Of course, everybody watching on TV doesn't know how wide open Randall Cobb is. Those of us in the press box, and with him coming at us, as you said, we're in that end zone where the touchdown was made. Like, we could see how wide open he was, and it was just a matter of, is Rodgers going to get the throw off? Of course, the block by John Kuhn on Julius Peppers, you know, he's able to get the throw away. So, yeah, that one ranks up there for me. I mean, B.J. Raji's pick six in the NFC Championship game, which was also in that same end zone where we are in the press box, that was a real treat as well. And as I've told this story in Insider Inbox before, the first NFL game I ever attended as a child, we're actually approaching the 40th anniversary of this game. It's only a couple more weeks. It'll be 40 years. December of 1984, Packers-Bears at Soldier Field. Both teams lost their quarterbacks. Walter Payton is playing quarterback for Chicago for a stretch of the game because they didn't have anybody else. Rich Campbell is in the game for the Green Bay Packers and throws what amounts to almost like a Hail Mary type pass to Phillip Epps in the last minute of the game for a 50-yard touchdown, and the Packers win. This is a Bears the Packers were going nowhere. Yeah. This is a Bears team that ends up all the way in the NFC Championship that year before they lose to, I believe, the 49ers. And the Packers won that game on a Rich Campbell touchdown pass with 40 seconds left. Unbelievable. I'll never forget it. First NFL game I ever attended in person.
You know what mine was, right? We always thought it was the Yancey Thigpen game. Was my first game.
Yeah,
that was the first game I was ever at.
Packers Steelers Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found my last actual like ticket from that too. I still
Oh,
have
you
my
still
ticket
have the
stub.
ticket
I
stub?
found it in
Nice.
a notebook this
awesome.
past off season.
Yeah.
All right, we got to go. Packers, Bears. How do they win this game? What does Green Bay have to do to win on Sunday?
You have to finish drives. The Bears have the top red zone offense. The Packers have been, red zone defense. The Packers have been struggling with their red zone offense. It's a big challenge. You've got to turn that around. You've got to finish drives and put the ball in the end zone.
The Packers have to run the football, and they have to run it well. I've said this on all my content, all of our videos this week. 24th ranked run defense in Chicago, 28th overall as far as yards allowed per carry. Josh Jacobs was kind of hitting his groove right before the bye week. Fourth leading rusher right now in the NFL, even after the bye. Josh Jacobs, Packers run game, need to get it done at Soldier Field. If they do, an unprecedented 11th straight victory in this series. 209 matchups. We have never seen 11 straight wins by either side during that rivalry. He's Mike Spofford. I'm Wes Hockwitz. We thank you as always for joining us for Packers Preview presented by Microsoft Surface. Stay tuned to Packers.com and the Packers mobile app. Tons of content, stories, videos, all will be up there. Mike's One Last Look column also will be up on Saturday morning. Be sure to check that out. And until next time, for Mike, I'm Wes. We'll see you later.